The activity continues to increase, with wood frogs dispersing farther from their breeding pools, and mammals waking up from their winter hibernation, and in many cases, mothers eating for a whole litter. Some of the highlights I'll get to later are the breeding American toads, the peak of the warbler migration that has come and gone, and a couple of weasel encounters we've had.
Yeah, way.
But first, I want to mention a paddle Kristen and I took on North Lake. It's 4 miles long, clear, fairly deep, and unpopulated. There were a lot of common loons we had the opportunity to watch forage. They mostly dove in the deeper parts, between 30 and 40 feet, and on average stayed under for about a minute and 20 seconds or so. We can't say what they were foraging for, or if they were going all the way to the bottom or not, but it was exciting watching them nonetheless. Back on Sanctuary, all of our woodland gardens are filling in very nicely. All 3 species of our trilliums are in bloom, the toadshade, the red, and the white. And one of our most prized flowers, the yellow lady slipper, is now in bloom, one of our region's few native orchids. Also in bloom are the bluebells, the blue cohosh, spring beauties, and my personal favorite, jack-in-the-pulpits. The fern gardens are also coming in nicely. And of course, insects are now emerging. Often when people think about birds, they think of them migrating thousands of miles in the winter and back in the spring. This is the case for many birds, but not all. Some only fly a little bit farther south, as far as they need to, and others don't migrate at all. They just expand their foraging range. And still, other species are variable in their habits. Take, for example, the turkey vulture. The population's definitely increased in the spring from the southerners moving back north, but not all of them left. Dangles was with us all winter long. Here he is again, perched in a tree above the beaver pond, and for good reason. Julia, the matriarch of the beaver colony, has died at the age of 11. We did not put a trail camera on her dead body out of respect for her and those who cared about her, but it's certain that he's waiting to pick at it. But the neotropical migrants have arrived. It's pretty cool thinking that part of the jungles of Central and South America have come all the way to the temperate forests of central New York. Many of these birds will nest here in the woods of our sanctuary, but if they do a good job, we'll never see them, because if we can see them, it's likely a predator too will see them. This is not the final stopping point for some of our neotropical migrants. The Tennessee warbler is just stopping here briefly on its way to the boreal bogs and forests of Canada. They will typically nest on the forest floor or on raised mossy hummocks in bogs and in colonies. This species is prone to drastic fluctuations in population. often depending on their prey source, especially the spruce bud worm. The name is a misnomer. They have very little connection to Tennessee. They just happened to be spotted there during their migration when they were named by the father of ornithology, Alexander Wilson. There were a few days that we had particularly high numbers this year. In our overgrown apple orchard, we spotted 12 in one single day. They are most easily noticed by their song, a 3-part staccato trill. The Tennessee warblers may be on their way up north, but others are settling in and establishing territories. The song of the common yellowthroat can be heard throughout all of our scrubby fields. Other birds, like catbirds, have already begun building their nests. The woods are now filling with breeding birds. Perhaps the most recognizable song is that of the wood thrush. They have a handful of phrases that are repeated over and over. If you listen, you can hear that 2 different sounds are being produced simultaneously. Wood thrushes, like all other birds, have a double voice box known as a syrinx. The syrinx allows them to produce 2 sounds at once, and therefore some beautiful melodies. Although wood thrushes typically sing and nest in the mid-level of the forest, they spend a lot of time on the ground, which is where they forage for food. They are searching for insects and worms beneath the leaf litter, and the occasional salamander if they find it. Visually, they can be distinguished from other similar thrushes by the contrast of the reddish head and grayish wings and the heavily spotted chest.
Whenever you are.
This mink being released was trapped out of the barn at Spring Farm Cares. It was preying upon the ducks. Mink, like other weasels, are omnivorous. They eat a lot of fruits and nuts. However, as many chicken owners can attest to, they are also voracious predators and able, in many cases, to take down prey much larger than themselves. All weasels have elongated bodies and short legs, which allows them to hunt in tight places, such as through thickets and in cracks and crevices. At the nature sanctuary, the beaver dams are one of the mink's favorite places to hunt. Weasels tend to be very high energy animals, rarely slowing down, and they also rarely show fear of anything. Weasels also have very well developed anal scent glands. Other examples of North American weasels, besides mink, include ermine, pine martens, fisher, otter, badgers, wolverines, ferrets. Weasels are also found on other continents, such as the famed honey badger of Africa. The craftiness of weasels and their high energy makes them one of my favorite animals to encounter. For a long time, skunks were also classified as weasels, but relatively recent genetic analysis places them in a family of their own now. It is easy to see why they were once classified as weasels. They have a wide and adaptable diet, although their main food source is insects. They also have the elongated body with short legs, and they certainly take the well-developed anal scent gland to the extreme. Like weasels, skunks are often on the move. However, they rarely seem to be in a hurry. They seem to just walk around, oblivious to their surroundings. I suppose there's very little reason for them to hurry, since they spend much of their time digging up grubs, and they have very few predators to worry about. Great horned owls, at least in our region, are the only predator that will consistently prey upon them. This skunk is very consistent in its routine. I've seen it every evening around the same time at the same bird feeder before it goes and methodically digs for grubs. Many have considered skunks a nuisance, and not just because of their stench, but because they are known to dig and ruin pristine lawns. As most people know, skunks do have the ability to accurately shoot a stinky spray. However, they are not often prone to use it. One evening, several years ago, some friends and I were hanging out on a back porch. One of the guys, Speed Racer Steve, was standing at the bottom step when a skunk strolled by. Steve bent down and pet the skunk from nose to tail, just like you would a cat that's walking behind your legs. Everybody on the porch was astounded, but the skunk just meandered on past, hardly even noticing the pet. I don't believe that skunk was an anomaly. I've had several other similar encounters. The only one I've ever known to actually get sprayed by a skunk was our family's crazy Jack Russell Terrier. I hope this skunk keeps coming out early, and I also hope to see a skunk family in the coming weeks. As usual, Wicks Pond is one of the best places to observe wildlife in action. Midge flies are now breeding and laying eggs in the water. The tadpoles of green frogs can be seen foraging on plant matter, both living and dead. And there's the constant activity of eastern newts. We're even beginning to see clutches of their eggs on the vegetation. Green frogs can easily slip by unnoticed, but the American toads are hard to miss. There are dozens of them swimming around the pond in search of a mate, singing and bumping into each other, and oftentimes even fighting. Most of the attempts at breeding seem to be failed attempts, but they are persistent in their efforts. The action lasted for about 3 days straight. The toads will continue mating throughout the summer, throughout much of our region, but to see them again in Wicks Pond, we'll have to wait till next spring.